In Franskraal and Hermanus in the Western Cape. Our reporter, that's Mariska Botha, has been following this developing story.
We are back in Hermanus in the Overstrand municipality, where this fire station in the heart of Hermanus is being used as the command center from where all three of these fires are tackled. Now, we made our way to Franskraal, which is about 50 kilometers from here in that direction, and we saw the local caravan park there, and there's absolute devastation there. There's 45 permanent homes there. 5 of them were completely gutted, and we saw some emotional scenes of some elderly people, trying to make sense of what they're seeing and thinking about their loss. It was a very traumatic experience for them. We would have loved to have come to you from there, but unfortunately there's absolutely no signal there. There's no communication available, there's no electricity at this point, because all of that has been damaged. The same goes for here in Hermanus. There's a few pockets where there is some communication available in terms of cell phones and the like, but as for electricity, the noise you hear, it's generators running in the background. Even the command center here is currently being run on a generator to ensure that they can communicate with everybody. Now, the latest update is that 31 homes have been gutted in Betty's Bay. 31 residences have been destroyed. Now, that fire in Betty's Bay, which is about 50 kilometers the other direction, started in the early hours of the 1st of January, allegedly after a flare was sent off, presumably as part of New Year's Day celebrations, and the fire was contained, and as soon as the wind comes up, it flares again. So that is the situation that firefighters are facing at this stage. Right now it looks good. There are still 3 active fire lines, and it looks like they're getting a handle on it, but as fire officials tell us, there's simply no guarantee. As soon as the wind picks up, those smoldering embers can cause a fire from scratch again. But for now, no homes are in danger currently. We don't know what will happen later. But to talk to us a little bit more about the impact these kind of fires have on the province as a whole, we have Anton Bredel, the MEC for local government. Minister Bredel, thank you very, very much for your time. Of course, here in the Western Cape, you are known as ministers. Talk to us about the impact. Of course, we've had Wuppertal as well, 53 homes destroyed. We're talking Betty's Bay now, 31 homes destroyed. What kind of impact does it have on the province?
Well, it's got a huge impact. Luckily, we're very fortunate. We've built a disaster management team over the last 10 years that's well equipped, well managed, and that's why we can manage fires and incidences like this. I think it's a miracle that we haven't lost any lives. First of all, I'm very grateful for that. And I need to thank not only our firemen and firewomen, obviously they've done a sterling job, but also everybody in the disaster family, the health services, SABC, every expert doing their job which they trained for. He helped us to prevent the loss of any lives. Secondly, obviously it's traumatic for the people who lost their homes. You've mentioned the figures, and we're still assessing that. And we will also support and help those families who have trauma, counselling, etc. In the Western Cape currently, I think we need to realise that climate change is real, because as we stand here, we're also dealing with the worst drought in 400 years in the Karoo area, from Beaufort West, Kannaland, Laingsburg, Oudtshoorn, Prince Albert. All those towns are struggling to manage their water supply. We've got a team of experts, of engineers and geohydrologists there to help us to manage that situation. And we currently, the disaster management is dealing actually with the aftermath of 7 disasters. Remember the Knysna fires. And yes, it's contained, but then you start to rebuild. That's going to be a huge challenge in a place like Wuppertal, because it's also not individual land, it's a church land, and we're busy with monitoring and meeting with the church and different groupings, and I'm going there on Tuesday again to see how can we rebuild that, because we need to rebuild the whole town there. So at the end of the day, it will have a huge impact on budgets, but as I always say to politicians, that in a budget cycle you need to make available resources for training of disaster management personnel and to equip them. We've also lost 2 fire vehicles in this fire, and people will ask, but how is that possible? In winds of 70 kilometers per hour, People are trapped in the house. Our firemen go in to save the people. They come out. The fire is under their truck or under their vehicle. The vehicle can't start anymore because the wiring will burn. Then they need to protect themselves, and that's exactly what has happened with the one. So yes, we interacting with Treasury. We will also interacting with our national colleagues on national disaster management to see how we can support the municipalities with funding, because it is an expensive exercise. But at the end of the day, we need to save lives.
A few months ago, I attended a function where you launched the official fire season. Now, this has become an entirely different ball game in the last 5 years. Just talk to us about the challenges of the fire season that has changed.
Yeah, we normally start our fire season in December. This year we had big fires in George area in November already. So it will have a budget impact because we need to look at our contracts. We've got, as I stand here, 500 firemen and firewomen on standby through the Working on Fire program in other provinces. And that's also to relieve our people, because if fatigue kicks in, these people is now out in the field, climbing the mountain, putting out fires for the last 12 days. We need to look at the health, at fatigue that will keep in, and that can lead to accidents. So that's costly. We've got now 2 helicopters on standby from the Air Force to also support us if things pick up again, and you can see the wind is starting picking up. But at the end of the day, it's how we manage it, and to budget for it, it's very difficult. We need to adapt. You cannot just ignore it, because we've got a responsibility to protect our people. Now, as I talk to the firemen and firewomen, I said to them that next time we meet might be a flood. And these things will happen more frequently because of climate change, and therefore it's so important for us, for our mayors, for our municipalities, our municipal managers, to understand that we need to invest and train people to deal with these circumstances.
Thank you very much. That was Anton Bredel, the MEC for Local Government in the Western Cape. As you've heard there, climate change is a reality, and from now on out, all municipalities across South Africa would have to start thinking along those lines. Like we've seen here in the Western Cape, these fires that we're seeing now are definitely made worse by the drought. The veld is dry, there isn't water available. So those are some of the major issues that impact on how long and how intense these fires burn. But for now, we're very thankful to say thus far there's been no loss of life, only the injury of that one person. He is, however, in a very serious condition, but we have lost more than 30 homes in a stretch of around 100 kilometers in the Overstrand municipality, but we'll keep you updated as the day goes along.
Mariska Botha there, bringing us up to speed on the fire situation unfolding in the Western Cape. We'll bring you more details as that story develops. Time to take a short break. We'll be back with more news after